You know the feeling, the chills, the aches, you just feel totally wiped out. You grab a thermometer and boom, there it is, a fever. And for most of our lives, we've been taught to see that rising number as the enemy, right? Something you need to fight with medicine. But what if that's only half the story? Let's get into it. What if a fever isn't just some miserable symptom your body has to put up with, but actually a super sophisticated weapon that it chooses to use? Today, we're going to dig into the incredible science of why your body cranks up the heat, and believe me, it goes back way, way further than you'd ever guess. Get this. The ability to have a fever is an ancient trick that showed up around 600 million years ago. We're talking way back when our earliest, simplest vertebrate ancestors were just starting to swim around. So no, this isn't just a human thing. It's not a bug in our system. It's a feature that's been passed down for eons. So that brings us to our first big idea. A fever is a battle-tested survival tool, and we're definitely not the only ones who use it. It's a core defense strategy you can find all over the place. And you can actually see this ancient strategy in action everywhere. Take cold-blooded animals like lizards. They can't make their own heat, so when they get sick, they do something called behavioral fever. They literally drag themselves out onto a hot rock to raise their body temperature on purpose. Even insects do it. Honeybees will start vibrating like crazy to warm up the whole hive and fight off a bug. Now think about it. This whole process burns a ton of energy. The fact that it's stuck around for 600 million years tells you one thing. It must provide a serious survival advantage. Okay, so how do our bodies as warm-blooded mammals actually pull this off? Well, it's not just random overheating. It's a really precise and controlled process, and it's all run from a central command center in your brain. And that command center is a tiny spot called the hypothalamus. The best way to think of it is just like the thermostat in your house. It's always checking your internal temperature, and it's programmed to keep things steady at its set point. But when you get a fever, something comes along and hijacks that thermostat, telling it to aim for a much higher temperature. And this is exactly how that hijacking happens. First, an invader, like a virus, shows up, bringing along these things called pyrogens. This triggers your immune system, which sounds the alarm, by releasing inflammatory signals. Those signals then tell the body to create a very specific messenger molecule, prostaglandin E2, or PGE2 for short. This is the molecule that makes the trip to the hypothalamus and gives the order, crank up the heat. So here's the bottom line. PGE2 is the biochemical trigger. It is the final instruction that resets that thermostat. And understanding this led scientists to a brand new and really fascinating molecular mystery. So if PGE2 is the trigger, where in the world does it come from? For a long time, scientists had a prime suspect. But as it turns out, a recent discovery pointed to the real source, and it was something nobody saw coming. See, to make PGE2, your body needs a specific building block, a fatty acid. The big question for researchers was, which chemical pathway in the brain is freeing up this fatty acid so it can be turned into that fever-inducing PGE2? For years, everyone pointed the finger at this one common enzyme that's involved in inflammation. Made sense. But when scientists tested mice that didn't have this enzyme, they still got fevers. So scratch that. The real culprit turned out to be a totally different enzyme, with a very surprising day job. Its main role is to break down one of the body's own endocannabinoids. Okay, this is where the story gets really wild. The specific endocannabinoid is called 2-AG. Endocannabinoids are molecules your body makes itself. That's what endo means. And they happen to be chemically similar to the active compounds in, you guessed it, cannabis. So this enzyme breaks down your body's own cannabis-like molecule, and that's what releases the raw material to make the fever-triggering PGE2. So just let that sink in. It is an incredible piece of biological engineering. To defend you from an infection, your body literally repurposes a system used for brain signaling, breaking down its own cannabis-like molecules to create the key that turns up your body's thermostat. Wow. So we know how a fever starts, but that brings us back to the biggest question of all. Why? Why go through all this trouble? It's a complicated, energy-sucking process. Well, the latest research points to an amazing answer that has to do with unlocking the hidden power of our own genes. This quote right here nails a revolutionary idea. What if a lot of our best germ-fighting genes aren't actually meant to work at our normal, everyday temperature? What if they're specifically tuned to switch on and go into beast mode only when our body temperature goes up? And here's basically how that works. At your normal temperature, you've got these key antiviral proteins hanging around, but they're not really in their best fighting form. But when a fever kicks in, the extra heat causes these proteins to change their physical shape. It's like they're powering up. This new, supercharged shape allows them to attack and wipe out viruses way more effectively. So the old idea that a fever just tries to cook the invaders, that's not the whole picture. Not even close. The much bigger, much cooler story is that a fever acts like a key, unlocking our own built-in defense systems and unleashing their full genetic power. Which brings us to the big dilemma we all face today. We have this ancient, powerful, and incredibly fine-tuned biological feature. But we also have modern medicine that lets us switch it off with a single pill. So, what are we supposed to do? Well, the science shows it's complicated. On the one hand, letting a fever run its course can supercharge our genes and boost our immune cells. Some studies even suggest that if you suppress it, you might end up being contagious for longer. But on the flip side, fevers burn a lot of energy. They can get dangerous if they go too high. They put a lot of stress on people with heart or lung problems. And let's be honest, they just make you feel absolutely miserable. There really is no single easy answer here. But knowing what we know now, that fever isn't just a symptom, but an active, ancient, and powerful defense strategy that's literally powered by our own endocannabinoid system to upgrade our genetic response, well, it definitely gives you something to think about the next time you feel the heat rising.